Afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. You've not seen much of Baldy recently. Not made a video in over a year. The reason for that is I've been quite busy buying a house and doing the house up and doing up the garage and turning the garage into a garage workshop, working on my car and bike. And here we are. This is it. This is the garage. It's an old asbestos garage. It's pretty basic, but I've cleaned it up, painted it up, slabbed the floor, got some of my tools, not all of my tools in here, but some of them, electrical stuff, my workbench and my socket set and other bits and pieces, and toolbox, and well, it's probably about a quarter of it down here so far. Most of it's still in the house. I've got electricity in here. I've got a high-tough cable coming in from the house. I've got sockets, and I've got a light, and as you can see, I've painted it all up, got it all nice, and that's basically it. It's like a 16-foot by 10-foot garage. Pretty basic, pretty old. It was an absolute midden when I got it, but I've done loads of work on it and I've got it quite decent. Painting it white has brightened it up inside a lot, because it was like a cave in here before. So that's kind of that. Now, that's not the reason that I'm making this video. It's not really what this video is about. What it's about is about my new, well, not really new because I've had it a little while now, but relatively new bike. Okay, and this is it. It is a Y-Reg 2000 Kawasaki ZX6R Ninja, which I bought second hand off eBay from a guy a little way from here, not awfully long distance away, kind of like the other side of Glasgow. And I paid £850 for it. He wanted £1,000 for it. I offered him £850 and he accepted that, which I think is not a bad price for a ZX6R. But it does need a bit of work. It was running, but it was running quite badly, and it has this problem where it kind of cuts out kind of all the time, really. If you're not sort of like whacking a throttle open, as soon as you let off the throttle, it just dies. Now, it was like that when I got it, and I thought, well, it probably just needs a good service and a new battery. So I started servicing it, and for example, the air filter is absolutely bogging. That's the original air filter, and it's just disgusting. It's one of the worst I've seen. I also replaced the fuel filter, put a new fuel filter in it. That's the old one. And I changed the engine oil. I put in about 4 litres of Ipone. I don't know if that's how you pronounce that. Ipone? I don't know, I guess. Semi-synthetic. It actually says synthetic, but I think that's semi-synthetic 10W40. And a new oil filter, which you can see on the bike. That's the new oil filter, new high flow oil filter. So it's all been a bit of a saga. Once I'd serviced it and I started kind of putting it back together again, I couldn't get it to turn over at all. And basically, cut a long story short, there was a problem in the wiring between the ignition barrel and the wiring loom. I thought there was a problem with the ignition barrel initially, so what I did is I cut through the wires with shears and basically tried to hotwire it, but it still didn't run. So I got the multimeter out and I put the multimeter from the battery. That's a new motorback battery, by the way, 45 quid off eBay. The battery was making between the two terminals 12.7 volts, but I wasn't getting anything on the white wire, which is if you look at the wiring diagram, the white wire going into the ignition barrel should sort of basically come straight from the battery via the starter relay, sorry, main fuse, which is kind of like a 30 amp fuse within the starter solenoid, if that makes sense. So I wasn't getting anything on there, so I tried taking the block connector apart. See if I've got the block connector. It's here somewhere, I think. I've kind of butchered it all now to kind of do my own sort of DIY wiring job. So that's the block connector. Took that apart. As you can see, that's got male parts in it. Put the end of the positive end of the multimeter into the female end of the white wire on the other side of this block connector in the bike, and straight away I got 12.7 volts on the multimeter with the black one, with the black side of it, obviously on the black side of the battery. So straight away I knew that's what the problem was. So basically then I had to sort of wire this ignition barrel. In fact, to be honest, at that stage I still thought that the ignition barrel was faulty, so I tried to wire in a VFR 800, one that I had lying around from a previous bike. So that's that, but the trouble is that has 3 wires on it. So that has 3 wires on it instead of the 5 on the Kawasaki, so I bunched a load of them together. What I found was then as soon as I connected the battery, everything went on solid, clocks, lights, the whole lot. So obviously that doesn't work, because it means I'd have to disconnect the battery every time I park the bike, so that's no good. So I went back to trying to get it to work with this barrel, and basically ended up wiring the whole lot together myself using spade connectors. So basically each of these wires, the brown, the white, the blue, the grey and the red, they're all wired into wires which go, see if I can lift the tank up, under there. I didn't have different colours of wires, so just done it all red and a couple of black. And that's basically, you can't really see, but it goes into the block connector. I've kind of like wrapped it up, sort of mummified it, if you like an Egyptian mummy, with electrical tape, insulating tape, to try and, you know, seal it up and what have you. So now when I put the key in, it all comes on as it should, which is good, and I managed to get it to turn over on the button, and I managed to get it to fire, but it still cuts out. It does run a little bit better, to be fair, but it doesn't, you know, it doesn't run as it should. See if I turn that now. That's a bit kind of, clocks do that. See, off. That's a bit difficult, on. And it will turn over, because I've been trying to kind of get it to start and run. I've kind of semi-flattened the battery now, so if I press that, it's not very good. So I need to trickle charge that battery overnight, which is a blooming pain, because that's a brand new motorbike battery for 45 quid. So there's something's not quite right with it, which is basically just causing it to keep cutting out. I can get it to run, I can get it to start, and if I knock the choke off and keep basically kind of whacking the throttle open, kind of revving it, you know, doing like whatever, 4, 5, 6,000 RPM, that kind of thing, it'll keep going. But as soon as you let off the throttle, it just dies. So something's not right somewhere. I noticed also when I was starting it up and revving it up, that I was getting a wee bit of smoke coming up from under the tank. So I lifted the tank up like this, like that, and kind of ran it, and I was using my inspection light. It's not really an inspection light, but it kind of works as one, and trying to see what was, you know, if there was anything like melting or catching fire, and I couldn't find anything. But to be fair, the smoke did stop after a bit, and I suspect it might be just because I was spraying GT45 and some of the GT85, that stuff, into the block connectors, and I think I kind of got it all over the top of the engine. So I think it might have just been that burning off. I'm not 100% sure. I'm hoping that's all it is. Obviously, if it's a kind of electrical connection that's burning, that's really not good. But I have had a kind of poke about in there and a look, and I can't see anything that looks like it's kind of burnt or melted. So I'm hoping it's just the GT85. So that's pretty much it. Basically, I'm kind of hoping that somebody out there that's got a 2000 or similar kind of vintage ZX6R, who can kind of tell me when a ZX6R does that, it's the so and so, you know, it's the whatever it might be, because that would narrow it down a lot. So that would be really helpful if anyone knows. But obviously, that's dependent on somebody who knows watching this video and being willing to put a comment on. If you do, I'd really appreciate it. And if not, I don't know, I'll keep messing around with it. Maybe if push comes to shove, I'll get a professional to have a look at it, but I'm trying to avoid that because obviously that's all money, you know. So that's pretty much it. I shall stop blathering now. Thanks very much for watching the video, and thanks in advance if anyone's got any advice. Cheers, thank you, see you later, bye.